The divine feminine is setting us back 100 years minimum. Now that I have your attention, I'm Lauren Joyce, founder of The Magnetic Woman. Welcome to The Magnetic Woman Show. Today, I want to talk about something that is so important. This is something that I have been thinking about, talking about, teaching about for the last few years. Now, before we dive in, do I think the divine feminine is like wrong or bad, and that's why it's setting us back 100 years as women? No. I think the divine feminine, and specifically that phrasing, has been co-opted by the alt-right pipeline, by Christian nationalism. And what has happened for a lot of women is you have this natural, innate desire to begin to learn about the feminine. And so you go onto social media, you go onto YouTube, and you type in, what is the feminine? What is the divine feminine? And at first, you're met with things that feel good, feel expansive, like the feminine is meant to receive. And for those of us who are high achieving women, overachievers, err on the side of perfectionism, the idea of like leaning back and receiving feels really, really good. The feminine is meant to be soft. Now, if you're a woman that has experienced a lot of pain, a lot of trauma, a lot of heartbreak, again, this idea feels really good. However, what I've seen happen over the last really 5 years is that this terminology of the divine feminine has been taken and reduced down to basically carry water for the patriarchy. And I personally think it is time that we redefine and rebrand all of the polarity conversation. So, when I first started learning about the feminine, this was back in 2013. Crazy. I started learning about the feminine, and it was like my entire world expanded. It was like I was dehydrated and I finally got to take a drink of water. I was learning about goddesses and cultures that centered the feminine. Now, I grew up Catholic. I went through 10 years of Catholic school. So, Catholicism is this weird mix in the sense that it is deeply patriarchal, and yet it still has this layer of the goddess woven in via Mother Mary. Now, I have a lot to say about Mother Mary, specifically around the fact that the church basically reduced her to some disembodied idea of perfection that is like not attainable for humans, but that's neither here nor there in this conversation. I mean, maybe we'll touch on it, but the divine, so I started learning about cultures that revered the feminine, that centered the feminine, that worshiped the feminine. I started learning about priestesses and specifically sacred sexual priestesses. I learned that Mary Magdalene was not only not the penitent prostitute that I was told growing up, but she was the apostle of the apostles, as in like the top follower. And there's many accounts and reports that she is an initiated priestess of the goddess Isis, which is what I believe. I started learning about feminine energetics solely through and related to pleasure, desires, sensuality, flirtation, but flirtation not as like if I flirt, I'm obligated, but flirtation as just enjoying my own energy and who I am in the presence of others. And I started to teach that. And as I'm teaching about feminine in terms of pleasure and desires and sensuality, of course, I start reading content around polarity and this idea that we all have masculine and feminine inside of us, and the masculine is logical and the masculine is driven and the masculine is linear and the masculine plans and takes the lead and the feminine is soft and receptive and you know, the feminine is nurturing. And I started to teach that for a little bit. And then as I was doing my own personal and spiritual development at this time, I was really drawn to what is considered the dark feminine. Lilith, Hecate, the Morrigan, the the death and destruction type of feminine, the feminine that will hold your feet to the fucking fire until you live in your truth. The feminine that owns and honors her righteous rage. And I became like a devotee of Lilith as well. And as I'm learning about Lilith and the dark feminine, and it's simultaneously happening when the quote unquote divine feminine is being co-opted. And all these people, all these women especially, are coming out and talking about the feminine, and the feminine is then being kind of like melded into this trad wifey lifestyle, right? The feminine is provided for, and then therefore I just stay home and bake sourdough bread. The feminine is submissive, which the feminine never was ever submissive. And so I personally went through this like dark night of the soul in my work, partly because I was really wrestling with, do I continue to use the term feminine when it has been co-opted and distorted so greatly that how most people talk about the feminine, and even when it comes to polarity, is actually completely opposite what I believe. And then I got to a point where I was like, if I don't talk about the true feminine, the sovereign feminine, then nobody is. Or, I mean, of course, there are other women talking about similar aspects of the feminine, but you get what I'm saying. It's like, then I'm truly giving up and giving over to the alt-right pipeline and Christian nationalism, this term that they're using incorrectly. And so when I say the divine feminine is setting us back 100 years, I also mean like women are blind. Women are just walking back into the cage of the patriarchy and they're being led by this little carrot of the divine feminine. And it is a slippery slope, right? So we see this in the way of like, being more in your divine feminine means being more in tune with your body. Absolutely. It means learning how to embrace your natural menstrual cycle. It can. And then it slides into birth control is bad. Birth control is harmful. People shouldn't be taking birth control. And it's just a half a hop over to then them passing legislation banning birth control and all of these divine feminine women basically being like, okay, well, it's harmful. No, right? Or the feminine is meant to be provided for. Okay, the feminine is meant to be soft and surrendered. Sure, sometimes you should just stay home and allow your partner to financially provide for you. That is half a step over from giving up your financial sovereignty, being stuck in a marriage or in a relationship, unable to leave, and another half a step over from when they decide, you know what, you guys don't need no fault divorce anymore because the divine feminine needs to be provided for. There's like so many of these, right? And so again, even when I hear people talking about the masculine and the feminine, I think we have it all wrong. And in a lot of the learning and the reading that I've done, I've really come to suspect that what we know to be like masculine and feminine energetics is written by men and or influenced by Christianity, evangelical Christianity, and this idea of like men and women are two halves of a whole. And when they come together, that's when you find wholeness. The true feminine is whole unto herself. She is sovereign. And so I have decided I'm no longer going to be calling things the masculine because what a lot of women are labeling as being in their masculine is actually patriarchal capitalistic trauma. PCT. You heard it here first, my loves. This is a new wave, okay? We're only going to be referring to it as PCT, patriarchal capitalistic trauma. Now let's think about it. Oftentimes, what is being labeled as a woman being in her masculine is like working to the extent of burning out. That's not masculine. And that is a trauma response to being a woman inside of the patriarchy and to living in this late stage capitalism that we're in. Oh, I'm so in my masculine because I'm taking charge. No. An element of like taking charge to the point of needing to control everything is not being in your masculine. That is a trauma response. Oh, I'm so in my masculine because I'm so ambitious. No, no. And again, ambition can be great if it kind of like crosses into this shadow element of like you're only getting your sense of worth through what you're producing. Hello, capitalistic trauma. Okay. I am putting my flag in the ground. I'm drawing the line. Like, this is the hill I will die on. The masculine does not lead. The feminine always has and always will lead. Men were never meant to lead. They're actually much more naturally submissive. The feminine's not submissive at fucking all. This idea, I saw an Instagram recently of a woman who teaches like polarity energetics, and she was saying that when a woman, you know, is really focused on achieving, then the man she's with won't be. As if achievement, drive, is a zero sum game. Like if I'm focused on achieving, he won't achieve much because again, somehow we only get a set amount of achievement. No, this is what I mean. The divine feminine is setting us back because that, like, on the surface can seem inconsequential. Oh, a woman who's really focused on achieving means she's going to be with somebody who isn't achieving a lot because essentially her achievement's emasculating him. And it can be like, well, okay, whatever. But when, as women right now in 2026, especially in the United States, our rights are so deeply under attack, when there's such a push to force women to get married, to have kids, to leave the workforce, overtly and covertly, we have to be really, really conscious of the content that we're seeking, or the content that we are consuming. I mean, we have to be really, really conscious of how we're framing things, right? So one like rule of thumb can be if what you're learning about the feminine is being repeated in megachurch, it's wrong. It's wrong. The Lilith is the sovereign feminine. The megachurches are not going to tell you to be more like Lilith. If the polarity people that you're following are in megachurches, like they have moved into evangelicalism, they are wrong. Their content is wrong, and it is ultimately harmful for women's sovereignty. This idea that the masculine leads, right? Then under it is like, well, then men should be making the decisions. And then half a step over is like, well, women shouldn't have the right to vote. And again, I know you can sit there and be like, it's not that deep, but it is. It in 2026, in the political climate that we live in, it is that deep. which again is why, one, I'm committed to using the term feminine, to helping you redefine what that means, to eradicating this polarity idea that like the masculine is logical. Quite frankly, I think women are one, far more logical than men in general. But I never will forget Reese Witherspoon gave a speech where she was talking about how, how she started her production company. And she started her production company because basically every film she was asked to be in didn't pass the Bechdel test. And the Bechdel test is when two women are in a scene together, are they talking about anything other than men or like romantic love? And she was saying that she was also seeing like every female character, there would come to be a conflict in the story, and she would turn to the man and go, "What do we do? I just don't know what to do." And Reese Witherspoon was like, said no woman ever. No woman ever is coming to this like serious conflict and turning to the man and being like, "You tell me what to do." And I think that for so many of us, again, there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of unrecognized trauma being a woman in the patriarchy. One of my all-time favorite books that I've ever read is Patriarchy Stress Disorder. Between patriarchy, capitalism, and religion, we as women have received the message for the last minimum 2,000 years that we are worth less than men, that we need to prove our worth. And even these descriptors that like that masculine is logical, the masculine is driven, the masculine is linear. No, capitalism wants us to be linear. Capitalism wants this consistent exponential growth upwards. Yes, the feminine does not work that way. The feminine is circular. The feminine is cyclical. The feminine is about community. And so again, I think that what has happened is polarity content has taken what we see to be markers of like success and labeled them masculine. And it has warped what the feminine is to fit into the patriarchal narrative. So many women are sitting there thinking they're in their masculine when they're just actively in a trauma response. This is why, for me, it's not just about saying things are feminine, but it's about embodied feminine leadership, the embodied sovereign feminine. The sovereign feminine is self-centered. We're taught as women, again, from a very young age, to be centered on others, that our lives need to revolve around others, specifically men, specifically being chosen romantically. That's another thing. If I see one more fucking polarity teacher talking about helping a woman be chosen, I am going to puke. The feminine chooses, and first of all, she has to choose herself. We're giving our power away to men and the patriarchy by staying in this warped idea of the divine feminine. So me personally, I don't even use the word divine feminine. I say sacred feminine. Because to me, the word sacred, they haven't co-opted that yet. So when I talk about the goddesses, when I talk about rituals, when I talk about pre-Christian spiritual practices, I talk about the sacred feminine, the connection to the goddess, to the earth, working with sovereign feminine archetypes, Mary Magdalene, Lilith, Aphrodite, Hecate, right? And I think that we need to overhaul the entire system of what we call the feminine. Even this idea of like maiden, mother, crone being the arc of women, because the patriarchy has so fucked up the idea of mother that, and there's plenty of us who are actively choosing not to have kids. I think it's like maiden, queen, crone, quite frankly. Crone still being that like wise elder matriarch, or maiden, queen, matriarch. Ooh, I think we just stumbled on something. Welcome to my new content here. Maiden, queen, matriarch. And we could even like look at um redefining maiden to be more like innocence, queen, matriarch. Because maiden and mother are words that are used to describe women in relationship to men. The magnetic woman is, if nothing else, decentering of men. So when we look at the embodied feminine leader, she is sovereign, she is self-centered. And this is why I am hosting a free, you heard me, free event March 20th through 27th called the Embodied Feminine Leadership Revolution. And I have collected 15 thought leaders from around the globe to come together, give you content, transmission, workshops, activations, rituals for free for that week. And we're meeting in live ritual, in salon calls. Think epic dance party meets panel discussions with these leaders. This event is unlike anything else. Okay. First of all, these 15 women have never been in one place at one time, ever. And they never will be again because I personally have handpicked them. So they are friends, colleagues, women that I follow, that I love, that I respect. So this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to join this event. And again, it's completely free. So you get access to the content for 7 days for free. Now, there is a VIP option, which you can purchase long-term access to the content, and there's tons of other juicy bonuses in there. And you can do that before the event even begins so that you know you have all the time in the world to take in this content. So if you want to join us, you want to go to themagneticwoman.com/event. The link is in the show notes. Share this on social media. Tag me. Invite your friends. We have to redefine all things when it comes to the feminine so that it is utterly sovereign. Because again, a lot of the polarity content, a lot of the divine feminine content is like propping up the patriarchy. It's propping up the systems that do not work for women. They don't. Heterosexual relationships defined by the patriarchy, right? Heterosexual relationship norms in the patriarchy benefit men and do not benefit women. And women are either opting out completely or calling their partners in to the carpet to be like, this is not working for me anymore. I am not the domestic slave. I am not the maid. I am not the camp counselor of our lives over here, right? This is what I mean when I say the masculine doesn't lead. Because, the masculine has led us here. And it's a fucking shit show. The new order of things, the new ways of leading, of making money, of investing, of being in a relationship, of mothering even, because according to the patriarchy, like mother is this self-sacrificing, over-giving martyr who utterly loses her identity in being a mother. She has no outside identity. The sovereign feminine can be a mother and hold other identities at the same time. So I really hope you'll join me for this event. And if nothing else, I just want to invite you to begin to look at what content are you consuming around the feminine? One, is it echoing what's happening in mega churches? Two, does it feel expansive? Does it feel like it allows you to be the fullness of yourself, or does it feel like it's trying to squeeze you into a box? If it's trying to put you into a box, It's not the true feminine. All right, my loves, I'll see you soon.